USUX. Smooth jazz.
Stop talking over my music, bitch. I want to listen to it. Oh, you're cool. Oh, welcome back to Wook Plus. Good morning. Sunday morning. What's up, guys? It is.
Watch John Kay
Great song.
last night.
Oh, yeah? How is it?
He sounds so much like Jerry. It's like he's a note for note replica, and I'm not sure about that. He's very good at what he does, but I don't feel like there's any John Kay in there. There's no John Kay in there. You know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying. We had a Hugh. Yeah, we jammed yesterday, and we were playing a bunch of covers. It was the first time in forever that we did nothing original. We were just fucking jamming covers, and we had a big discussion. So they do like a set break where we just hang out and like chill between, and we talk about it, whatever. And we had this huge conversation about like, do you try to when you do a cover, do you try to emulate it, like the tones and everything exact, or do you sound like Hugh playing this version of the song or whatever band it is? And our consensus was to own and make it like your own, because you're never going to sound exactly 100%. Even if you do, like people know, you know what I mean? Like it's much more interesting and fun, I think, to have fun with it and do something different.
I think if you're a straight cover band, though, it's a different thing, right? Like if
a
you're
tribute
a band,
act, like if that was like,
right.
like I'm a Fish tribute act, I'm trying to emulate Fish exactly.
Right.
Although
But if you're
like
just a band that's like covering a song, then I think you want to make it your own for sure, because it's you putting your interpretation on their song type thing. But I think if you're a cover band, so to speak, you're trying to be closer to them. I think you still can take liberties on certain songs and try to make them your own, or some of the jams or whatever, but I feel like cover bands stick closer to the original pieces than a band covering a song usually.
I do like J-Rad though. I think that was a bold move to like reinterpret it in their styles. Well, especially with like Dead bands, there are so many fucking Dead cover bands. I mean, not even like well known like online in the scene. Just like I could go out around here in Pennsylvania, nowhere, and find 15 Dead cover bands.
Yeah.
What do you guys make of Fish though? Because Fish, if they do Led Zeppelin, they do Good Times, Bad Times. Page sounds like Plant.
Yeah.
When he sings that, and when they do covers, they are so good at becoming the band, like totally taking Fish out of it until the jam, which I've always found fascinating.
Oh, a lot of them, like No Quarter, even it sounds very Zepp-ish, right? But that's an interesting thing too, because when they've done the Halloween albums and done the full covers, a lot of times they kind of put their own spin on some of them and add jams into some of those songs. But then other times, like the Bowie one was like straight down the like no, like very, very true to.
Well, I think that was a respect thing, right? Like some songs, there's like they don't want to tarnish with it, but other songs they want to make their own.
Well, and then you look at like Festival 8, they had a full horn section and the backup singers and like that whole thing to do that album, which was awesome. So
I mean, White Album could have been note for note. I think it's almost exactly as long as the actual Beatles album is.
Yeah.
I think Fishman usually is the one that gives it away, right? Like Trey and Page do a really good job of emulating the original. And Fish can play the parts, but like he doesn't have the same kit or the heavy-handedness of like Bonham. Like, and he can't help but do his little Fishman flourishes that a lot of like the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s bands, they didn't play. Like the drummers just didn't play like that. Not because they were like better or worse. It just was a different style. And Fishman gives, at least for me, I always can be like, oh yeah, that's Fish covering something because of the way he interprets their music.
Gold star to Mike for his version of Emotional Rescue. He gets Jagger's high parts and the low part.
He certainly tries.
But listen to like Boogie On is I feel like is kind of their version of Boogie On, as opposed to like trying to.
I'm probably calling out more one-timers like Tub Thumping. Tub Thumping could be the record itself,
Right.
Well, yeah, but the ones that they play in heavy rotation, I think they probably start much closer to the original, and then as they, get more comfortable.
Drowned was about the album length for the Who with the Halloween show. It wasn't until afterwards that it grew legs and became a
Well,
monster.
and look at ones that they kind of own, like Cities,
And Cross-Eyed,
like
I was just thinking about those.
Cross-Eyed, yeah, and it's funny that they're all Talking Head songs. They're like the two Talking Head songs that they really own with those too. But I mean that they've kind of really
They went
into
through a phase where they were under the influence of David Byrne, definitely, and
definitely.
Eno.
Thank
Byrne and
goodness.
Eno.
I think that it adds a lot to their catalog. You know what's a great playlist? I don't know who made it, and it was years ago, but I highly recommend it. I found I don't remember what platform, but somebody made a playlist of all the songs that Fish covers, but the original versions. So like it had like Ween Roses and like Talking Heads
Right.
and like it's cool because like you're listening to like I don't know, it was a very great playlist. Like I enjoyed it a lot.
That's cool. I mean, I think there's some that you wish they played more of, like Peaches and Regalia, which is always a fun one to hear them bust out and play, but they don't play it enough anymore.
They really don't. Actually, I think I'm gonna take that on as the song I'm chasing now. I mean, I've already caught it, but like I was like, the second iteration of chasing. It's like it's been a long time.
Maybe they can play it more. Didn't Zappa's family sell the catalog?
Do you think that's why they weren't playing it, or is it just because they have?
Oh yeah, that's why they didn't do. I always heard that's why they didn't do Joe's Garage, because they couldn't clear all the.
That's not why they didn't do Joe's Garage. I mean, come on.
Why didn't they do Joe's Garage then?
I mean, even for them, that's a hard one to pull off 20 years later, and not get people upset.
Yeah.
No, like, am I off base there? I feel like.
Slut?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that one would be tough.
Catholic girls? You think people might get upset about Catholic girls?
Yeah. Anyway. What else is going on? What you guys been up to?
Well, I tell you, let's talk.
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. No.
I was going to say that this idea of people selling catalogs. Kiss just sold their catalog, right?
Oh, yeah.
And
they sold more than the catalog, though. They sold their trademarks and their everything, their identity, like.
Right.
But bands, because they don't have like. You could have a tribute band that does the full production and makeup and like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like, I don't know. That's weird to me.
Well, but my point with this is, okay, so they sold the catalog to this Swedish company that does not care about music, and they don't care about fans or musicians. They care about turning a profit. That's why they spent $500 million or whatever buying this catalog. Right. And my fear is that all of a sudden nobody's going to invest in new music anymore because, like, a commercial, instead of having somebody write a new song, they'll pay $50 to this company now to use Rock and Roll All Night. And you know, I have a fear that there's repercussions just beyond, them buying the music, in as much as I fear it's going to further, stifle creativity.
Yeah, but I feel like AI was a bigger threat to like the small time commercial music, and that I think the people that's just spent $300 million on Kiss are not going to be selling songs, rights out for songs cheap. Like I think they're going to be, new projects and movies and like bigger properties that can spend a lot of money, right? And then also make like a multiverse out of it. Like I feel like the small musician gigs are going to be eaten up by AI probably.
Right. We are going to have a Survivor doing Eye of the Tiger again because they're just going to pay somebody to use a song that they already know is a hit. So you're losing out on an incredible song like Eye of the Tiger all of a sudden.
Yeah, but I don't think it will never not be used because that's such a song for things. Like people still,
but no, I'm saying that
still pay.
If they were making that movie today, they wouldn't have gone, "Hey, let's get a new tune and find this song. Let's hire this band Survivor. Let them watch a screening of the film and then write a theme song for us," which is what happened. They're going to say, "Oh, let's get Rock and Roll All Night from Kiss for $20,000."
Yeah, but they can already do that. It's just who they're paying is different. I don't know. I don't know if because I think the people in charge want to make money, but that's not always going to be the easiest way to make money. I think like the creatives, the directors and stuff, they're going to need to have authentic human new stuff to, you know what I mean? Like to some level, like I think, sure, there's a little bit that could be quenched with AI and nostalgia and old music, but there's always going to be a need for new creativity. I think the market's just always going to bear that. I don't know.
I think that your generation, mine and T's generation, yes, we want that.
Oh,
I don't
shut
think
up,
that
you old ass boomer. You're going to start that. Oh, you kids, you don't like original. Fuck that. Are you serious? No, that's bullshit, Kev. That is bullshit. I think, if anything, the youngest generation, not my generation, but I think the kids today are going to grow up revolting against technology and social media and AI. Like, I look at Evie, she has no interest, and I mean, she's a baby, but I could totally see where that's the boring, like, old shit that, like, the parents did and the grandparents, and they're going to go back into nature and back into creativity and back into the arts. I think that I completely reject it. I think it was the 80s and 90s that brought on this whole tech boom, exponential growth. No, honestly, when I was a kid in the 90s, it was all about the exponential growth of technology and how it's going to make your life incredible. And you needed to be hooked up and plugged in and fucking locked on. None of that shit's being put onto the kids now. It's the opposite. The messaging is all turn that shit off and go touch grass, right? Like, I think that there's going to be a correction.
So let me ask you this. Why was technology then for music not kept up? The most popular form to play music in your house these days is 70 years old or more. It's a record player. You know what I'm saying?
That's a nostalgia thing, though.
Right, but like at one time, RCA in the 50s, they were the technological leaders, but they were a record company because they were trying to sell physical product. There's no longer physical product to sell. So younger generations don't become as invested in the music because you don't have to have a record player and go buy a record and put it on.
I don't even know what your point is anymore. I apologize. I don't think that's your fault. I think I've just lost what your line of thinking was. What tell it to me again concisely. What is wrong with my generation? Is that we don't have
not your generation? Media? I said the younger generation, that they've never had the pleasure to buy the physical media, that was the only way to get music, was either to go buy it or take it out of the library if your library was cool enough to have something you wanted to listen to.
That, well, because there's this weird thing with kids that it's like it's just there. There's no sense of like ownership or achievement or getting it. It's like whatever you could think of is at your fingertips. It's like, I want to hear whatever song. It's like, oh, here it is.
Right. I had to order Robert Johnson's King of the Delta Blues from Sam Goody, and it took 6 weeks for the album to show up. And then it took me another week to get back up to the mall to actually pick the album up. So it was 7 weeks, after I had discovered the album before I even had it in my hands.
Well, that's a good point, because the shopping, or like when something got released, isn't the same anymore, because back then you used to, like, it was a point, like I remember when like Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 came out, like that was like
line around the block.
Yeah, and like we went and waited for it to get that thing on CD, and it was like having that physical thing to like touch and have and put it in your CD player and rock the fuck out with it was like something unique, because you were buying the physical product. Now you're just sort of like, okay, I guess it's out. Like I'll go on Spotify and listen to it, or like New Vampire Weekend. I know Llama bought the album, but like you're like, well, how do I even listen to it? Like, what do? I don't really care enough to buy the album, but I want to hear it.
Though, is that bad? I have a question for you though, because I hear your point, and I'm conceding it. Like, there's definitely been that evolution, but is that bad for the generation? Like, I'm not talking about like the discussion about what it does to the music industry and the artists and the musicians and all that, but like, hypothetical young kid is never going to have that experience that you guys always had and I had for a bit of my life, right? They just have this instant access. But is that really a negative thing? Because I can see a lot of positives with it too, right? Like a couple weeks ago, we got on this bender where we were doing like Irish Gaelic, music, and we found random artists that as a kid would never have heard or had access to, and went really deep down the rabbit hole. And for like 2 or 3 weeks, that's all we played in the house, and it was like very interesting, and we were learning about the music and the dance. You know what I mean? And like, so I think
accessibility wise, yes.
Right. So like, what is the trade-off? Is it better to have a really intense love of one single album, or to have an appreciation of like all of this bigger genre?
Is something, I mean, yes and no, because there was back in the day, you didn't know any better, right? Like you couldn't go on your computer and have access to every song that you could possibly want to try and find and listen to. It was about going in there and like being selective. And if you wanted to learn more, like it was like, oh, well, I need to look up what album is
Right.
a good jazz album to get, or like what am I going to buy that I can listen to, you know, like classic wise or
You were
whatever. It was,
reading magazines. You were going out and buying magazines in order to find out about new albums. So
and
you were
also
supporting that
listening
industry
to the
too.
radio, right? Like the
You're not
radio
telling
was
me
your
how
main
that's
source of
better, though. It
information.
just feels like you're going down a nostalgia trip.
Well,
Like, how
but
is
no,
that
but
better for
let's take
them?
your example. I want to start listening to Gaelic music, so
Right.
I would go and buy a Gaelic greatest hits. I'd go to my record store and ask the guy, "What would you buy if you were into Gaelic music?" Well, I don't know. Ask Patty over there. So you go and ask Patty, and Patty's like, "I would buy this one." So you get home, you listen to it, and you're like, "I really like band X, Y, and Z, but I don't like these others." So you go back to the record store and you buy a whole album by band X because
Yeah.
you know that you like
I
that
will
at that
say,
point.
Kev, on that note, it definitely has changed because you don't have as many, like back then, your record store, the people working there were almost like your sommelier, right? Like they were sort of your go-to and they knew what they were talking about most of the time with regards to music. I mean, these days it's definitely online and you can look it up and stuff, but it's just a different, it's all different. I see what Tim's saying because yes, the access and the variety is there now, and it's much easier to spend 99 cents to download one song as opposed to having to buy that whole album or try to find the single or something or try and record it off the radio when it came on. So there's that, but like not having the physical means anymore is also something that's kind of odd because
How many
remem-
people buy songs anymore though? That's so weird you said that. Do
Yeah, I was
people
gonna say,
actually
I was
buy
like, I'm not
songs
spending
for
99 cents on
99
a fucking song.
I
Are you
just,
kidding?
well, it's funny because I just did that not too long ago, but I also do it because like when I'm editing or whatever, you have to like, I don't need a whole
Yeah.
album. So I'm buying a certain song and dropping it into the cut or whatever. So yes, but it's not really that anymore either, which is weird. But I mean, and look at even the evolution from having it on your you know, your iPod now has changed
Right.
completely.
iPod
too.
is
Like,
such a dated thing now.
Yeah.
It's like,
right? Like, but that was such a fun thing too to load up your iPod and have it all on this little thing that's like, oh, this is my
and we've taken technology to this level where we have these smartphones and the sound quality has gone into the toilet. As
no.
opposed to
Well,
the
yeah,
sound
because if you
quality being
listen through
better.
the fucking phone speakers, but like I still have like my Bose. I have
Yeah.
big ass cabinets. Like it's not like they erased the technology you listen to. They just gave more
But
convenience to other ones.
most people
You
consume
don't know
music
what most
with
people do.
I think that's even worse for like movies though, because look at yesterday, somebody uploaded all of Dune 2 onto Twitter and like, oh look, I can watch Dune 2 on Twitter. You're like, fucking hey, why would you watch Dune 2 on your phone? Like, I get it, but like that's where you're really losing that connection of like that kind of thing.
And the audio mix for movies has gone to shit too.
Oh, yeah.
I fucking watching them at home. You have to put the subtitles on. I don't know. Maybe that's partially because I'm getting old, but like I'm pretty sure the mixes have gone to shit over the last several years. All right, I want to cap this because what I'm gathering from all this, and you can agree to disagree. I don't think one is better or worse than the other. I think it has nothing to do with the means and methods and has everything to do about the individual and the parenting and the household and your drive. If you're a motivated, curious person, if you're curious enough to drive to the fucking record store and do all that shit and dig and find it, if you're still a curious kid, you just start going about it a different way, right? So I think that things have definitely changed, but I think as far as for the individual consuming the music, I don't think it's a net positive or a net negative. It's just different. I think for the music industry, it's a different story. I think it's gotten super hard for the artists.
I
and
think
the
the way it
musicians.
is now is bad for musicians and bad for fans.
I think it's fantastic for fans and bad for musicians.
The only
cannot
people who
convince
are
me. You cannot convince me that having access to music is bad for a fan. You're making too many assumptions about the way they consume and the way they are influenced.
I mean, on that flip side, though, Kev, is look at bootlegging and look at live music. Like, instead of having to wait for somebody to find the tape or waiting to like, oh, have you heard this? Like, did you, and even that on that note, having like the live streams and the access to getting like Internet Archive now and being able just to like go on and listen to dead shows and whatever is like really convenient as opposed
Think
to
about the taping built communities. Think of how many relationships that we built from trading tapes with people and going to someone's house to bring over your double
record.
deck and sit
You're
there and
just
just
in
make
this
copies.
nostalgia cloud, though, because look what we are literally doing right now. We are building a community and making friendships with digitally streamed music and talking about it. It's a different. I agree, it is different, but it's not better or worse.
We need to do a doc,
You're
the
just
work of
longing for
art.
simpler times when you were young and could do tons of face drugs without repercussions.
We should do a doc, the work of art in the age of digital reproduction.
That would be meta.
Well, I think there's some lost. I think there are some lost things with that. You're not getting the cool, like we talked about the other night, the album covers. Like you're not. It's not as big of a deal to have this artistic album cover and whatever, because it's not. You're kind of coming back to that with the albums and
The
stuff.
thumbnail,
like we're saying,
though,
still that
thumbnails.
thumbnails. Yeah, exactly. That
and
little.
you can't turn it over and see who played on it, who the producer was, if there were any guests,
And which was always fun. I mean, but see, that flips both ways, right? Because it was always fun to open it up and find the lyrics in there or the inner notes and all of that stuff. But now you can just Google all that stuff too. It's like right at your fingertips, and you don't need the album to do that. So it kind of.
You also can get the physical if you really want it.
Right.
The reason everybody doesn't have it is because there's not a demand for it. It's not like they're refusing to do it. If there was a huge demand for that, like you're alluding to, Kev, then they would do it. Like they have the means to do it. They just don't fucking do it because there's not a huge demand. There's tons of indie artists that are re-releasing LPs and CDs and have the pullouts and everything. I just saw Karina did a whole fucking thing with one. Like it's there. It's just it's a niche thing now. It's not. There's not a demand for it.
You're doing it for nostalgia's sake or whatever, to have that sort of, to put out an album with that kind of stuff, or like as a throwback or something like that to that. It's not the norm, right? Like is what it used to be. So it's kind of, I don't know. It's an interesting.
I also
back in 2022, Dopapod put out an album that was actually a board game too.
Nice.
Which is fascinating.
That's really cool. That's really fun. Like those are the fun things too, when there were like little things in the albums or the tapes or whatever. I mean, I miss buying cassettes. Like that was sort of my generation, like we were right after albums, right when CDs were coming in sort of, but they were so expensive and CD players were so expensive at that time. Tapes were sort of like the mainstream, a Walkman, your double cassette players on your little stereo systems at home, your boombox that you took everywhere. Like that was, like tapes were the shit, and the quality was crap. Like, don't get me wrong. Like I think records have that warm vibe feeling. CDs are crystal clear and like really awesome to listen to. Tapes were kind of meh, because it was more for your car. And like I said,
it was meh, and it got worse too. It started off meh, but like I had an old Nirvana tape, and by the time I stopped listening to it, that shit was like stretch. It would warp it, like the time dilation in it. Like it was not good. I wonder how much of this too. I'm just thinking, like my personal perspective is like the difference between childhood and adulthood, regardless of the means. Because I do remember that feeling of getting a new tape and like the pride and excitement and how good, but like. I don't think that's gone because of the medium change. I think it's gone because I'm a working ass adult. And if I want to get something, I just get it. Right. Yeah. Like you didn't have to wait. Like, I mean, I'm not saying like I'm rich. I'm not. I'm still paycheck to paycheck. But like, if I really want something, I don't have to ask me. I just fucking get it. Whereas like when you're young, you're like, even if you're like in college, like you got to work towards, you got to save up, and there's like an accomplishment. I think that's a huge part of the change.
There's definitely a difference. I remember being a little kid and dying to go buy like Thriller on tape, but having to get a ride to the store to go do that and like get that. But then, like I said, Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 was high school, and it was like driving there with my friends to get the CD and wait in line and do that. So yeah, but it's funny. Like tapes were definitely, I mean, they were crap, but that's kind of the thing that. It's again, like Tim says, like you're yearning for that nostalgia, like like it'd be so fun to like listen to tapes again, but then at the same time you're like, no, other than bootlegs, like I still have my bootleg collection. I love breaking those things out and listening to those, but like buying an actual album on a tape would be so weird these days. Like that would be so strange.
Scott McMicken from Dr. Dog
talk about that.
Has a whole record label called Press On Records, and that's what they release as cassettes.
That's awesome. That's funny. I mean, look at like Jack White, who does his whole the pressing and all that for albums. There are guys out there that are artists too out there that still
I
try to
think
live that.
DJ Greyboy released 8 tracks recently.
Tipper's
But see,
Choice
that's
releases
fun.
tapes.
But what do you have to play that on? Like then you have to buy an
It has
8-track
to be your old
player, right?
hoopty.
Like
That's an old hoopty that has the 8-track player
Oh.
in it.
who has that? Like that car doesn't even run; it just sits in your driveway, and you can go out and listen to it. That like you can't. I don't think those cars run anymore that has an 8-track in it, right? Like,
No way.
and they run on diesel, and like it's environmentally unsafe to drive that car anymore.
Every time you start it, a bird falls out of the sky, it just dies.
Like has the big cloud come out of the exhaust.
You see a little chipmunk like crying behind you, like what?
My old 88.
I do love those old big ass cars though. Like I don't have one. I probably would never get one, but like that's a nostalgia thing I have. When I was a kid, I always wanted to have one.
Remember
the
the old,
gas
like
to get to the grocery store?
the ashtrays in the seats, like on the doors that like
on the
flip
doors, the
open
little
and,
flip
like,
up. Oh god. I got a little tickle in my chest. My dad was a smoker, and it's like driving anywhere, I'd be fucking coughing my ass off.
The seats just absorbed the cigarette smoke, so like there was no escaping it. Like you got in that car and it just smelled like that ashtray.
Yeah, and then your clothes smell like you're going to fucking like elementary school smelling.
Everything smelled like cigarettes in the 50s.
Well,
and
yeah, but as
60s.
soon as you get in the car, Dad's like smoking 3 cigarettes on your way to school, anyways. So you're just like, oh, and like when it's cold out and the window's just cracked a little bit, but you're freezing. And
my brother and I were always terrified that the butt would come back in the back window, so we'd keep our windows up, and then his would only be cracked a little bit, so it'd be like hotboxing a fucking car. Oh man,
good
you know what?
stuff.
There's been a lot of positive changes too.
Right.
I did, as he brought up, and I was going to bring this up too. That was the thing I was going to say. Fish got the webcast announced finally, so very excited about that. I think that I don't know. I always anticipated they were going to do it, but apparently there was a bunch of nervous wooks out there. I don't know how they could not do it. It's just
the
so
money
much
grab.
money to leave
Yeah,
on
the money
table.
grab alone is like, are you kidding? Because I think those will probably be some of the most popularly bought streams, just like the festival will be for people who can't get to the festival. It'll be huge streams. Like those are huge revenue driven.
Now are we gonna have the boom cameras hanging out over the audience?
That's the
with people
question.
trying to look at the.
That's a really good question. I would assume that they're gonna do something unique for it, right? Like there has to be a way to
Cameras
show
on cables, maybe.
something, yeah, or like more of the fly cams or something.
Yeah,
like
I don't Monday Night Football cam.
Something like that. I wonder because I mean I'm sure they've been in there setting it up, and so I mean I know they're playing movies or whatever in the Sphere right now, or that one Darren Aronofsky film that's going through it right now is the only thing I think playing there until they show up. But I'm sure they've had access to like getting ready for
maybe drones. Like see that drones or the fly cams. I don't know. I heard somebody else saying that they were worried about like the booms getting in the way, but I feel like if you're thinking that, you're not appreciating the magnitude of this venue, right? Like you're thinking like, oh, I'm looking in a movie theater.
It'd be right in front of my face. I'd be like
it's
right
not going to
behind
be.
that.
There's no way, dude. Have you seen the scale of this thing? There's no way a boom or a drone or a fly camera is going to distract you. You might not even be able to perceive it based on how big the fucking screen is.
Well, and to that point, I wonder what the stage will even look like. Like, will there be a light rig on it? Because U2's was so stripped down because of the back
no light
thing
rig
on there. So, like,
it's all going to be what they program
the screen. And so, how do you film that really and see that? I don't know. I mean, maybe
it's going to be exact same as the other ones. It's no Kuroda cam. It's just going to be close-ups of the 4 members and a full shot of them. And then occasionally they'll have a sight cam that gets like a bigger thing. But I think if you're webcasting, you're not getting the full experience, but I don't even think you're getting a lot of what's happening up high or anything. I think that's fine for me, honestly. It's like I'm more wanting to hear what they do, and I don't know. It would be hard to capture it in cameras anyway, I think.
Well, just look at all the YouTube videos that people try to shoot from U2 shows that you can go online and look at it. And it's always, I mean, it's very confusing. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's wide. I mean, it's almost like IMAX lenses, right? Like you can shoot it at a really wide lens and see. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I think the whole thing.
Somebody
is
did a whole YouTube show.
Really?
Somebody did a whole YouTube show on YouTube. Yeah, I watched
just
it. It
filmed
was
it?
pretty cool, but it's basically just him
YouTube.
doing the band.
I thought he said YouTube. I was
Yeah.
like, I was waiting for the point. He's like, he did a whole YouTube show on YouTube. I was like, okay, a YouTube
Of
show
what?
about
No,
what?
you too on YouTube.
You too?
You too on YouTube. I think the main takeaway though is that we will
If
be
you can make
doing
it through a YouTube show.
intermission shows and post shows. We'll do the recaps every night and do intermission breakdowns with,
Yeah, member
the
hangs.
members. Member
That'll be
hangs
fun.
during halftime. So it'll be cool.
I'm gearing up. I almost forgot. Like it's sneaking up on us. But I got Goose
Yeah.
tonight too. We have 4 nights of Goose coming up tonight. So we will well, at least me and some guests, maybe you guys, I don't know, we'll figure it out. But Wook Plus will be doing recaps after each night of Goose, 15 minutes after Encore. And then on Tuesday, I think it was Essie, somebody was asking what the Wook Club show was. It's 2000 Merriweather. I don't remember the date, but it's 2000 Merriweather.
Like 9/17, I think, maybe.
Yeah, we'll tweet. Kev, can you tweet that out today? Through the account? We'll
The
get it
exact
out.
show.
Yeah, the exact show. But that's going to be a really fun one. I'm going to listen to it either way, even if I can't make the recap. I'm excited about it. It looked like an insane second set.
I will plug again, even though it's, whatever, but it's really cool that Goose is doing free streams of the 4 shows at the Cap. Like, that's really fun that you don't have to pay and you can watch them for free is really, again, a cool thing, I think. And
Following the Spafford model.
not taking that money grab. It's kind of interesting because I'm sure they could have gotten some of it, especially since so many people got turned away and it was such a difficult ticket to get. It's kind of cool that they're making it for free and that you can watch it. I won't be watching tonight because I'm going to Bruce Springsteen here at the Forum, which I can't wait for. But I think
how
it'll
many
be
times
cool.
have you seen Bruce?
This is my first Bruce show.
Oh, you're gonna have fun.
I was telling my friends, I was like, he's
a
very
fucking
rare.
rock star, man. Like
It's very rare
great
these
show.
days that I see an artist for the first time. So this is very exciting for me. Like I don't know, I just never caught Springsteen live. It never worked out. So this will be cool.
yeah, I'm not a huge Bruce fan, like as far as like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm gonna travel in, like I listen to him all the time, but I appreciate it. Like he is one of the few remaining like just absolute rock stars, just kills
And
it.
the history, yeah, and just that's why I kind of wanted to see him too, is it's sort of one of those things like he's such a not just an icon, but he's such a performer, right? Like he said, like the shows are so epically good and he puts everything into it. And apparently watching, videos from Matt and Benji and people that have been there and seen it and the reviews, it sounds like he's, I mean, how old is that guy? I mean, speaking of age of musicians, I mean, it's pretty amazing still out there.
Got to be
giving it his
80.
all.
Got to be like
Yeah.
80.
It's crazy. I mean,
right.
him
And Kev, remember when like 5 years ago, Kev said that Fish had like 10 years left? And Trey, I mean, granted, he's turning 60 this year, but fucking like that still potentially could do another 20. And Trey looks better than Bruce did 20 years ago. I mean, he's in great shape.
Yeah.
We should have marked down the date you said that. We should have like a countdown to when Kev predicted.
I've said it like
back.
10 times though.
I know.
Yeah.
It keeps getting
every
pushed
year.
back.
Every year he says it, so it just keeps pushing it another year from the 10 years.
Yeah. Bruce is 74. Let's not age the man 6 more years.
Bruce, now could you have a
Still.
Bruce Springsteen in today's current music industry?
What?
Like
Would Bruce Springsteen be as big as he is?
He
in
is as
today's
big as
current-
he is in today's
if he
music
just
industry.
was starting, if he was just starting.
I don't know, man. Probably. Yeah, I don't think there's a vacuum of superstars. I mean, look at Taylor Swift. She just joined the fucking billionaires club. Like, and there were also massive stars when he was getting started, right? That were like older, like the fucking Beatles and shit. Right? Like, I don't know. I don't think
But
it's
you
that
also
different.
think about
Taylor Swift's dad bought the record company. Okay?
Okay.
That's all I'm going
Okay.
to say about that.
Oh no, that's not all you can say because it doesn't make any fucking sense. What's your point?
The point is she bought her way in. Bruce
Okay.
didn't. Bruce was out there 180, 200 nights a year,
She
trying to
didn't
make
buy
it
her way into
happen.
being a fucking billionaire, though. She might have taken advantage of some situations to get started, but That's people did that then too. They knew people. They had to fucking go smooth or fucking.
Okay, let's say you walk in the store and there's only one kind of cereal. What kind of cereal are you buying if you really want cereal?
But there wasn't one kind of cereal then or now. That's my point. I
There is
think
with
you're looking
Spotify.
back with fucking rosy tinted glasses.
You open up Spotify and they have curated playlists and all this, and on those playlists are people who've paid money to be on there. It isn't really organic or music that you like. They're telling you
sure.
like Taylor Swift.
Sure, the algorithm made her a billionaire. All of that, all of her fans and all of
No,
her success was
the
because of the
algorithm did not.
algorithm.
Her fans made her a billionaire, and I'm not
Or
discounting
how
her
about
work.
this, Kev? How about she became a superstar, and then the corporations were like, "Fuck, we should cash in on this. Let's make our algorithm get her music out so we can get our cut." Maybe the art and what she did and other artists is what made it popular, and then all the other shit is the consequence
And
of the
maybe
success.
maybe Taylor Swift is like the next Bruce. Maybe she's like timeless and will be playing into her 70s and have her fans that
I don't even know what her
are
music sounds
generational.
like. I gotta listen. I feel like at this
know.
point I have to at least listen to a song. I have no idea if she's good or not. I mean, she's probably. I imagine she's super fucking talented, just based on like the results. But I haven't actually gone in and looked.
She's super popular.
Okay,
She is super popular and she plays pop music.
right. Seems like that's a good. It's a good thing. I don't know, man. I feel like Kev's upset with the kids. I feel like
No, I just don't.
some
think that
youngin like
you're-
took his
I-
parking spot or walked on his grass, and now he's yelling at the clouds.
I don't think that you get another Prince or Bruce Springsteen that's a working musician grinding it out who gets lucky and gets the one song on the radio, Born to Run, that actually propels them to the next level, and then their talent just carries them to the furthest reaches of the universe.
No, I disagree. Two things. I don't think you get the next Prince, period. It has nothing to do with anything, technology, music industry, anything. I think he was a once in a lifetime, once in a whatever, 1,000 years artist. But I don't think we need another Prince. We have Prince. We need the next thing, another thing, right? Like, you're never going to get another John Lennon. You're never going to get another Prince. You'll never have another Taylor Swift, right? But the point isn't to try to recreate the one thing that we had that we liked 20 years ago. It's to find the next thing that takes advantage of the environment they're coming up in.
And
The environment changes, the artists change.
I think the fans will dictate again, like what they like and what. I mean, look at a band like Vampire Weekend that had a meteoric rise out of nowhere to like playing main stage festivals like the England, like huge. So not a lot of bands even capture that, right? Like not a lot of bands can just come out right out of the gate and succeed like that. So I think the audience and the fans are what really still dictate what they want to hear and what is considered good or popular to them. So I think people will still win out in the end. I mean, there's just like a lot more to choose from these days, which makes it even harder for some bands to break through that noise. So you need to have a hook or something a little special. Playing live shows isn't just
the most popular videos on TikTok. Do you know how long they are?
2 minutes at the most.
Seconds. 16 seconds is the average. That's what music has come down to, is 16-second clips.
No, it's not. That's what fucking TikTok is. You're using a TikTok stat from a fucking app that is designed to scroll through.
And look at us finding Yabi Yabi. I mean, are you finding Yabi Yabi and spreading it to us, who now like we're addicted with them and trying to reach out to them and like talk to them? I mean, so good music will always find a way. Life finds a way. Good music will always find a way.
I would say that the average jam length for Fish and other jam bands has increased through the years. So that whole argument of longer, more patience or more, attention span, not really. Fucking 92 Fish is like 8 to 10 minute jams, where 24 Fish is 40-minute jams. I mean,
well, but they're a jam band. They say that
I'm just coming up with very obscure tiny points to prove my point because that seems to be what we're doing here about 16-second TikToks. No, that's not how this works. Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you.
All right.
Next
up.
He wants to get us into fish and like what we're actually here to talk about. He doesn't like when we're arguing. I like this question. I think it was for their fans. 100% fan service, and I think it was the best type of fan service. It was well executed fan service that they didn't cash in on until you were there. If they had made posters and a launch video saying, come to MSG for New Year's because we're going to do Game Henge, I think that would have been the fucked up kind of fan service where they were like taking advantage and preying and cashing in on it. But I think hey, keep it a huge secret and then give us what they gave us. I was fucking definitely for the fans and perfectly executed.
And I wonder how that, when, again, I'm so impressed they were able to keep that under wraps as well as they did. There were a few, here and there's, but
it was leaky.
Nobody really knew. And
not as bad as
point,
past years, though.
To your point, Tim, I mean, the tickets and the artist, like everything sort of looking back on it, the hints were there. Like it was right in front of you the whole time, but like, again, that's sort of a way that you're going to miss it. You can't see the forest through the trees sometimes. So like, you're like, oh, it couldn't be. And the whole thing that they would never do that. And still people even then were like, they would never do that. They're not going to do that. It's not the New Year's thing. Shut up. Right. Like, I mean, so for them to pull that off and keep it a secret is pretty crazy. And I still wonder, you can kind of picture it in your head, that aha moment when Trey is like, this is what we're going to do next year. Right. Like giggly fun, like, won't this be we're going to blow their minds. Like we're going to do Game Henge for New Year's next year, and like, what's that going to be like? So
I think about that a lot. Those moments where they're like the creative process is kicking off and the momentum of the collaboration and like spitting out the ideas. Like they're probably doing that right now with like Monday Green or the Sphere, maybe putting finishing touches. And like, that is actually a part of the whole experience that I really enjoy. And honestly, I'll never know truly, right? Like I'm not a fly in the wall, but like there's like almost like an imagination exercise, right? Like we're like, I wonder what that was like to be in that room spitballing those ideas and collaborating and coming up with it.
The fact that they didn't do or haven't done, maybe they're still working, I don't know, but like a full documentary type thing of that whole process.
It's bonus footage with the DVD.
It has to be, because I mean, even just watching that little video that Trey posted on Instagram of watching the rehearsals was so fun, and listening to him laugh and giggle, and like some of the stuff they did release of him with the drawings and like looking over, the early concepts. I want to see the whole thing. Like I'm hoping they had cameras around a lot and like filmed a lot of it to see. I want to know what the whole thing is. Like I want to see it all come together. It'd be so much fun and so fascinating to see just the process. I mean, I'd be fascinated to see them do any New Year's show or Halloween show behind the scenes doc about pulling that together and how the dancing and everything is so fascinating to me. It would be so cool to see. So
even the little bit we got for but even a little bit we got for what was it? The ship, Soul Planet. Right. We got a little bit of that in Me and My Mind or whatever. And like that was arguably one of the lower New Year's. It's certainly the song, but it was still fucking incredible to see.
But it was such a cool thing to see, and how excited he was. Like, we're gonna have this ship on the stage, and like blah blah blah. And we're gonna have it. And it's funny, Tim, looking back on it, because yes, you're like, yeah, and then that was not really a great one, but like the excitement and the buildup for it was so cool. So I mean, the Game Henge one would be so cool to see. Like that would just be fascinating.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right. Anybody, you got anything else you want to call it soon? I'm feeling good.
Wednesday, we're going to talk about. I got a question for you, and think about it till Wednesday. Is Trey? This is about fans. We know that Trey interacts with fans. Do you think that he has the same relationship he did back in 1.0 with the fans?
I'm gonna ponder that.
No, I think it's changed. I think it's gotten better.
This is the
I think it's gotten better because through what we just talked about with technology and everything, I think it's gotten closer. I think it's become more, and especially with the way that they play and what they appreciate now, I think it's become more relevant to him. And I think there's a closeness with the fans and the whole community than there
Yeah.
used to be.
We're gonna have to think of another topic for Wednesday because
I know, Kev, you had to bring it up
Lord.
now so we could just talk about it now. What do you think? Of course, we're gonna bring it up. I mean,
Cliffhanger.
Yeah, we'll see you tonight after Goose. Thanks, everybody.
geese.
All 150 of you. Thank you.